I'm going to hit... As you can see, my phone has seen better days.
Izzy did her homework.
Yeah, I'm going to just put... If I put it on the home screen, then if it tries to... sometimes it's like having a toddler doing this on your phone.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's got to that stage of broken. So if I put it on home screen, then I can mitigate for anything my screen tries to select.
Good plan.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's good. I am getting a new one at some point.
I know. Well, mine was run over. I was cycling to go and get my shopping, and my phone fell out of my pocket, and like 3 cars ran it over, and it still worked, but its screen was completely smashed, if you can imagine.
I had a case for it, and it's lasted so well, like absolutely perfectly with a case in it, and then the case fell apart. And because the case had fallen apart, I kept being like, oh, I'll go, like, next week I'll go get one, next week I'll go get one. And then dropped it at a wedding, and it's just smashed. And after that, I was like, you know, it's already gone. And then I went for a run in the rain, and that really killed it. Like, until that point, it was fine.
Any of those kind of things. Dropping it in a bucket of water.
Yeah.
Those are the classics.
I managed to kill mine 2 days before we went to Po.
Yeah.
I dropped it onto a step, and the screen just like turned tartan, and I could hear it pinging, and I could hear people ringing me, but I couldn't use the screen, and I was like, I go to France
that was stressful
in 2 days.
So the front camera works, but the back cameras don't, and we were going to France, and I was like, we're going to need to take some photos, and we can't do them all on a big camera. Like, we're going to need something. That was stressful.
We sorted it.
That was stressful.
So shall I introduce this one?
You can introduce it.
Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to the Pony Podcast, here with Alex and Tess and Izzy Wild, who's a vet at Stable Close and Nottingham University vet graduate, who's going to talk to us about colic.
Can I put an early appreciation for the fact that you've printed out the questions and you've not handwritten them?
Yeah.
When Alex handwrites them, I can't read it.
Well, I've actually handwritten them myself.
Your writing's very neat.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Alex,
it's usually vet's writing. It's actually got worse as I've gone along being a vet.
I was looking at it
part of the
thinking it used to
training.
be neater.
It's like scribbling notes.
It's part of the training, isn't it, to have illegible handwriting?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No one else can read my writing. It's top secret. That's how all our histories are hidden.
All confidential because you can't read it.
Exactly.
That's the reason. Doctors, vets,
Yeah.
everyone. That's the reason.
It's a secret service.
Yeah.
So we'll start off, and I'm sure most people have heard about colic, but we'll just give everyone a bit of an overview about it. So what would you say are the main symptoms of colic?
So colic basically just means tummy ache, so abdominal pain, and the main symptoms. So we've got, as part of our little React pack here actually, our mnemonic. So restless or agitated, so attempts to lie down, rolling, flank watching, box walking, changes in appetite, so eating less and droppings reduced. So yeah, just kind of changes in the droppings and that kind of thing. Abdominal pain, pouring, kicking at the tummy. Also clinical changes as well, so changes in heart rate, the mucous membranes, temperature, skin abrasions around the face can be a more severe sign, and also T for tired or lethargic, so they can be lying down more, just dull and depressed, head low, that kind of thing. So there's quite a broad range of symptoms really. And quite often I'll get called to someone who's like, they're just not right, and as soon as you unpick the history, you've got an idea, actually this sounds like colic. And for us it's one in 3 of our emergency call outs is colic. Wow. So it's a really high number.
We lost 2 horses to colic, colic related things. Like.
Yeah, gosh. No, it is. So I mean, most colics are treatable. So I think 1 in 5 are kind of surgical or more severe critical cases that need to go to hospital. Yeah. But 4 out of 5 of those, like 75%, we can treat in the field. Yeah. So lots of different treatments we can give, and
I feel like it's something that like everyone I know has had a horse had colic at some point. Like it's so common.
Yeah. We had Thunderhead colic, but it sort of turned out to be related to something else. That he had a bit of a liver problem, and it was showing up as signs of colic. Of being a bit like lying down a bit more than normal. And he let us take his temperature, which doesn't normally do. And we were like, something's not right.
Ours were both quite traumatic. One had a strangulated hernia.
Oh, crikey. Those are very painful.
Yeah, so we think he'd been trying to get out of... Oh, no, we don't really know what happened. We found him trying to get out of a rug, and then he was really, really sweaty, and we took him to hospital, and he was operated on. But so that basically means the sheet ligament between the stomach and the intestine had ripped, and then the intestine had gone through and like knotted, and they took out like 5 meters or something ridiculous. And then they wanted to operate again, but my mum said, like, if he hasn't come back from that, let's just leave it. And then we actually had his half sister afterwards from the same owner had loaned her to us, and they didn't even take her to hospital. She like broke out the stable in the middle of the night and was like careering around the yard, and I think they just put it. I was quite young, and they just like put her down on the spot. Really sad.
I mean, to be honest, once you've got an idea of how painful the horse is, and the vet's done the initial visit, you've got a good idea then, is this going to hospital, is it possibly a pit sleep? But as I said, most cases of colic is tummy ache. So we're hearing more severe ones. So don't be too panicked.
Just to terrify everyone.
Don't worry, when I was 14, my horse had colic, and I hadn't realised at the time. I actually hadn't at the stage been wanting to be a vet. It was before that stage, but he's a very greedy horse, and the only symptom he was showing, I had some pony nuts in my pocket, and he just didn't want to eat them, and he was just there like not wanting to eat, and I was beside myself by the fact that he wouldn't eat these pony nuts. And I was like, oh god, time has grown. I've grown up a lot since then, but I was like, oh, the French fans, like, my pony won't eat pony nuts. He was fine. I literally got treated with some pain relief. Something to settle his tummy.
We had one of my ponies had colic, and like, oh my god, you would have thought it was dying. Like, it was on like just horrific. And the vet came, literally gave it like one painkiller jab, and it was fine. And even the vet was like, he's being very dramatic about it. Like, he was like flat out groaning, and then would like try and get out but couldn't get out.
Oh dear.
It was horrible.
So what would you say are the main causes of colic?
So there are lots of different kind of underlying causes, and I'd say probably mainly milder colics can be attributed to management changes often. So horses are designed to be living out all the time, foraging, not having any sudden changes in feed, a little bit of exercise, that kind of thing. So if you start stabling your horses, stopping their exercise, not having enough water, changing their feed, having lots of concentrates, that kind of thing, that can certainly cause certain types of colics, so more like spasmodic kind of tummy aches, so like us if you get indigestion. And those can be easily treated, but the more severe colics, they're usually anatomical. There are some things that predispose horses to getting them, so age, you get more like strangulating lipomas in older ponies. Horses that windsuck or crib bite, they're more predisposed to some other conditions as well. But yeah, no, there's different things, and I think the key is kind of having a good management which reflects more like a horse living in the wild will reduce the chance of getting colic. But so many horses nowadays, some horses are living in 24/7, but it's making sure, if your horse is in, like making sure that it's got access to hay, it's got plenty of water. And this time of year, we're worrying about impactions because the water buckets are freezing over, so they're having less water, and that can be a thing as well. So.
How do you go about treating, and obviously there's quite a range of causes, so I guess you'd have to treat according to what caused it, but what are the most common treatments for when you go out to see a colic case?
So generally what I'll do is I'll do my clinical examination and have a good assessment of the horse, and at that stage I'm going to give it some pain relief. Kind of no matter how severe the horse is, it's only going to settle the situation. So something called flunixin or bute we give in the vein. Different vets will choose different anti-inflammatories. and they will directly help settle the pain. So it's actually quite simple, that. And then something like called a spasmolytic, so something like Buscopan. Put that in the vein as well. Sometimes if the situation's still not settling, a shot of sedation. So that's actually a shot like an injection. Sounds really not very good. But yeah, like a little bit of sedation is actually really good at settling the stomach as well. That's it can have a really good visceral analgesic as well. So that is good. And also fluids. But won't necessarily give fluids in every single case. So before, like, really giving the treatment is a really good one. It's really good for the horse. It makes them feel better. But it's also a good diagnostic test, because if the horse responds well to treatment, then, you know, actually, hopefully this isn't going to be a critical case. It's not going to need to go into hospital. And the vet will often do a rectal examination, and if they can feel an impaction, then, or anything that makes them think, actually, this horse needs fluids, or if it looks dehydrated, will then pass a tube up through the nose, which can cause a big nosebleed. Always warn the owner of that before, otherwise it will cause a nosebleed. And then we give them fluids with electrolytes via that. So yeah,
easy.
I was always told when I was doing 24 exams, think about colic, like tummy ache.
Yeah.
And what sort of things would you want for tummy ache? Like having a bit of painkillers, like you'd want to lie down in bed, you'd want to be nice and comfy, and like trying to think about that. So when horses roll, it being a bit like you would want to be tucked up in bed, lie down.
Absolutely. And like, you know, there are a lot of owners when you arrive who'll be walking their horses. You know, there's no harm in a little bit of gentle walking before the vet arrives if you want something to do, but make sure you've got a hat on. The horses can, like, especially if it's a severe colic, they really don't know what's going on in their surroundings, so they can be really, really dangerous. And, you know, probably the best thing to do is, if you've got a school or something, turn out the horse in the school and just let them kind of walk about, roll about in the school, and that's kind of going to minimise them getting cast or anything like that in the stable. So.
God, last thing you need. Getting cast as well.
Before we start talking a bit about going on to the rest of the subjects, are there any maybe old wives' tales or preconceived ideas about treating colic that you want to just
lay to rest now?
Yeah. I mean, as I was saying, talking about walking, like, some people are really keen to keep walking, and actually don't want to exhaust the horse by any means. Also, people often say that rolling will cause the horse to then twist its gut, get a torsion, and that's an old wives' tale. Like, they're rolling because they've got tummy ache, and it's, you know, the horse's intestines, they're attached in one point in the abdomen, so they're just freely moving about, and, like, unfortunately sometimes they can just twist and they get this catastrophic colic, and that's not really, it's not going to be caused by rolling, it's just going to be, you know, anything
that happens.
Exactly, and they'll rolling because of the pain more than anything else.
We were told once that sometimes if they've got like quite a mild colic, you can just give them a bit of a lunge, and the movement
a little bit of moving is like, certainly, like, if you can put them, probably lunge is good. Some people put them on the walker. The only thing with that is if you don't want a horse going down on the walker. No. So it's probably better, I'd say, probably to have them in the school and maybe getting them moving, but certainly not forcing them and not exhausting them. Because it's certainly, if you think the horse looks like it's improving as you're moving it, that's a good sign. If it's like still trying to, like, relentlessly trying to get down, that's a sign that horse shouldn't be walked. Like, if it's really struggling, like, I wouldn't be chasing it with a lunge whip, anything like that, because I've seen plenty of times that's been happening, and it's like the horse is in a lot of pain, and you don't want to be doing that.
No.
But yeah, those are probably some of the myths. I mean, I did some research out in Honduras as well, and there are owners kind of giving their horses beer and antibiotics and that kind of thing. So
just in case.
I think it's less so in the UK, but there are kind of different things that people will give. In different countries, people do different things. And, but yeah, generally the treatments that we have access to as vets are better than treatments you have access to as owners, I would say. And like oral bute as well is not very good for colic. So some people might give like a sachet of bute or something. It's not going to really help, unless maybe if they've got a temperature, it might help with the temperature, but it takes a while for it to absorb. It's better to not give anything, call the vet, and then we can assess and then give the treatments as required.
So you're involved with the Nottingham Colic Project. You're at university in Nottingham. And what is it?
So the Nottingham Colic Project is basically a big research project at the University of Nottingham, so it's not another name. And actually it's now called the Nottingham Colic and Wound Project. So it's looking at common emergency conditions in horses, and developing kind of research, evidence-based resources for owners and also vets in the field, because there's a lot of information out there, and it's actually finding out which of that information is reliable, and what's going to help the horse, really. So it's been kind of looking at all the research that's there and kind of assessing it all, and putting it into research, into information for owners and vets. So
How did you get involved?
So I did a research master's, and I was more working on the vet side. So developing these resources, which will hopefully help vets that are first going out into practice, mixed vets who are, it's kind of can be quite scary for a vet going out to colic as well. Like it's, you might have an owner who's really beside themselves, a really dangerous horse, and you as a vet need to have like a good systematic planning in your head and how you're going to go through your colic. So I always have the same steps, but when you're a new vet and you're first on the road on your own, it can be really daunting. So like that is really, it's trying to help vets in those situations, or mixed practitioners who like see cats, cows, and the occasional horse, and they're like, oh my god, I got a colic. So that was kind of my area that I was working in. But I had a lady called Adele was working on the owner stuff with my supervisor Sarah Freeman, who has been kind of leading this project at the University of Nottingham.
I would imagine if you're not a horse specific vet, going out to something like that where like generally horse owners know quite a lot themselves, and going out to someone who's like, well, you need to do this and you need to do this, if you're not a horse specialist, you'd kind of be like, oh really god hard.
Or you get people that think they know as well,
and
you get like the yard expert, and it's just like, oh, you've got the whole yard there, and they're like, no, it's been in a bee attack, it's been stung by bees. I'm like, no, these cuts and abrasions are from where it's been like self-traumatizing. I think it's got a surgical lesion, and you got all sorts. People often think, oh, it's got cast, and that's why it's like this, and actually it's like, no, it's got cast because it's got colic. And it can be really hard because people have preconceptions as well, and you have to, as a vet, you have to be able to
you
trust
can't just
what
be
you're
like
seeing.
you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to be able to have a good approach and know what you're doing, and because it can be very worrying for owners, and difficult to deal with a horse that is in a lot of pain as well. It's dangerous. So
no kidding. And what's been the main what was your research specifically in for your own race?
So yeah, as I was saying, I was kind of involved with kind of the vet side of things. So it was more assessing what kind of clinical signs.
The studies are out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. History taking, deciding what's a critical case, diagnostic tests to use, and also like further diagnostic tests. So when would you do a rectal examination? When would you give a horse fluids? That kind of thing. So, I mean, there is information out there for vets, but there's kind of a lack of evidence base at the level of first opinion vets going out there. A lot of it's more aimed at vets in a referral setting, so at a hospital. So it's more first line stuff. What
surprised you most about what you found in all of your research?
I mean, I think there wasn't in my stuff, there wasn't kind of as necessarily loads of surprising research. I think most vets do a really good job. But it was more kind of coming up with a baseline of a good standardised approach to dealing with a colic, and so that vets can have confidence with that. So there wasn't necessarily anything particularly surprising, I'd say. But it's been interesting, certainly, to see, understand the numbers, and, it was kind of looking at different first opinion vets and seeing, 1 in 3 emergencies being colics is quite a large number. So I guess that was quite surprising.
How has the treatment for colic changed over the years? Because I mean, my mum worked for someone who would do give horses fluids through the nose themselves, with a hose pipe.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, if you read because my mum gave me the Jill Pony books, and they would use paraffin.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Some vets still do use paraffin, but it's actually,
What does that do?
so it's supposedly meant to help with getting the feces through the intestine and out, but actually there's not a lot of evidence that that's actually helping.
Yeah.
And it can be dangerous because if
you go around the wrong tube.
Yeah, so when you're passing the tube, there's two options. You go down the esophagus or you go down the trachea into the lungs. And it's the same with tubing a lamb or a calf, anything like that. What you don't want to do is put it down the lungs. Yeah. But it might happen. Yeah. If you put paraffin down the lungs, that horse is not going to survive. So that is, when we're at university, we were told just don't do that. But there are vets that do it. I mean, you got to be confident that you're putting it. I'm always confident I'm putting it down the stomach. Yeah. There are lots of tests that vets do to check that it's in the right place. Yeah. I think I'd be very. It's quite a big undertaking for an owner to be putting a hose down a horse's nose, because you need to know you're putting it in the right place. Yeah. Also, you get reflux from the stomach out, and you don't want to be filling up a horse that's got like reflux building up there because it's got a strangulating lesion, and it's actually going to just cause its stomach to rupture. So don't think that's a good idea.
No. But are there any other ways that like treatments have changed?
Well, you do hear about people giving beer in the past. And I don't know because I've been a vet for like less than 2 years, so I've only been quite newly graduated myself. But I think the mainstay would have always been kind of giving some bute, and I think flunixin is much better than bute really for treating tummy aches. But fluids. I mean, it's all quite kind of basic stuff, like the first opinion treatment of colic, but it's just understanding which one of those need to go to hospital really.
Have you had a good reaction from vets that don't normally see colics to your step plan? Yeah,
no, I generally yes. So I think it's been particularly useful for students in their final years, and like certainly revising for exams and stuff like that. So we developed a website and it's got all the information on there, it has been good, and we've also, the owner stuff as well has really gone out there, and we've handed out loads of information packs, given lots of talks, that kind of thing. And most recently there's been a React Champion scheme where different vet practices have taken on the React campaign with the British Horse Society. And we kind of been giving out bulletins about colic, talks, handing out the information packs when we're at visits. So I'll quite often just hand these out, and so people are more informed and know how to make a decision before the vet arrives, kind of thing.
How has the British Horse Society been involved with the project?
So they've been involved with raising awareness with owners. So that's the main thing. And helping with funding as well to develop all our information packs. They've really been key in getting the message out there for owners, because they have such a big audience of people that like engage with their Facebook posts and their website, and they've got all the information on there, so that's been really helpful.
Did you find, like with owners reacting to it, did you find there were many people who didn't have a lot of awareness? Because I mean, I like grew up in a horsey family, like went to pony club and everything, so treating colic was like, I always thought like everyone knew.
No, well, not. I guess people listening to this, if you're kind of doing a B test and stuff, you're pretty aware, and pony club as well. But on the road, I see all sorts of people, like people that never, like, they've got no idea what's happening, and they are, they've because it can be quite dramatic. I mean, if a human started rolling around on the floor and like writhing in pain, you'd be a bit concerned.
Finally.
But you do have people that have horses that have, they're the first person to have a horse, and they don't necessarily, you don't know how to access information. And I think you're lucky in places like the Pony Club where you've had good thorough teaching on like kind of how to do things.
First aid and stuff.
Exactly. But no, there are plenty of people that are less aware.
You mentioned that it's now the Colic and Wound Project.
Yeah.
Are there, with the wound side, you're giving more information about treating injuries.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to extend it to cover other
first aid elements? Actually. So I am less involved now that I've graduated. I'm still in contact with Sarah, but they are in the first stages of the wound project. So that's that will be a big undertaking. At the moment they are doing owner surveys and kind of analysing that on how people treat wounds when they contact the vet, that kind of thing, and understanding that. So I think that'll be the next big project. I don't know what the next one after that will be, but the colic stuff is, it's been really good. It's won awards, and Sarah's done a really good job developing all this and having her research team. So it's good.
No, you go.
I was chatting to Izzy before Tess arrived, and when I went to the Laurenus conference last year, the BHS were handing out little like card-sized packets that you unfolded, and it had like all the REACT steps, and I didn't realise that it was involved with the university. I thought it was something that BHS had started.
That's cool.
So I was like, oh, I've come across this already.
Yeah, so it's all got kind of research behind it. So I think that's the main thing, is like there's loads of information out there, but which of it is reliable, and you can trust that this has got a lot of research behind it, and it's all, the good thing is it's all accessible for owners, and because it's hard to access research-based information as an owner, or as a kind of first opinion vet as well. So
I mean, even having done the little research that I've done for various episodes we've done, finding actual scientific paper referenced resources.
Like you'll get like horse and hound forums, like and whatever, Hampshire horse, happy horses or whatever.
But you
forums.
read them and you're like, where are you getting this information
it's more
from?
like wives' tales on there, and it's dispelling myths. And it can be, there's so much information online now. People will like, oh, I read this online. So even before you arrive as a vet, they've read
Googled
something, and they've already got an idea. But sometimes you're like, gosh, this is totally not. You're barking up the wrong tree here. But it's often like kind of going backwards and then going back to like your basic steps and going through your stepwise approach. As a vet.
What are your top tips for owners who think their horse might have colic?
So really the main things would be make sure that you're safe first, I'd say. So for handling the horse or anything, I think it is wise to put a hat on, and can take them on a little walk if they're not too painful. As I said, putting them in a school is a good safe place because they're not going to get cast there. If I think the best thing to do is to call the vet in the first instance, because if it is more severe colic, time really does make a difference in survival rates of colic surgery. So the longer you wait, the worse the prognosis following colic surgery. And that is actually a thing. So actually, if your vet gets in there sooner rather than later, it's less time for the horse to be in pain. But also, if your horse is one of the 25% or 20% that it does need surgery, it's going to be in a much better place. Another thing to consider is, do you have transport? Is surgery an option for you? Because
it's expensive.
It's going to cost, the latest figures average is going to be about £6,000 for colic surgery, and even if your horse is insured, their limit is £5,000. So it's a lot of money, and you still have an extra £1,000 to pay. If the horse is needing to go to hospital, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have surgery. So you might say, oh, I'm happy for my horse to be referred for medical management. So it might be that the horse then has further tests in hospital. They can do abdominal scans, they can also do like gastroscopes if they think they need to. I mean, you can do that in the field, but less so in an emergency. And also put a horse on a drip. It's not something you can do in the field, is put a horse on a drip. So, and they can actually have round the clock care. So in a hospital, if there's a bad impaction or something like that, they can give fluids every couple of hours. Whereas if you're getting your vet out every couple of hours, it's just kind of impractical. Exactly. It's tricky. So thinking about, would you refer your horse is important. Also, do you have access to transport? If you don't, can you phone a friend? And I think it's good to think about this before your horse has colic, and also before you go away on holiday, because quite often you go to a colicking horse and you've got the auntie that doesn't know anything about horses looking after the horse, and they've got no idea what's going on, and they don't have a clue what you would do, and these often end up being the more severe ones, and you have to speak to the owner in Barbados or wherever and come up with a plan over the phone, which is
my mum's just in the process of making like an emergency plan for if anything goes wrong, because previously our neighbours were on site and it's their yard, so they were horsey and everything. Like if anything happened, there was someone in the cottages backing onto the yard, or there was a neighbour there. Unfortunately, my neighbours just had to move, which is very sad. And our new neighbours are lovely, but not horsey at all. And they're getting new tenants to the cottages that back onto the yard who might not be horsey. And like mum's just, I know she's remembering the very sad time where our horse had broken out of the stable. And so we're in the process of making like a sheet to give to all the residents. And
on the front, so these Colic Paths are available free. So you can also download them for free off the BHS website. But there is a little poster that you can stick on the door, which has the React clock and the mnemonic of the different signs of colic. And then it just says react now to call your vet, and then it's got the information so you can put the owner name and contact number, vet name, emergency transport name and contact number, because a lot of people don't have a trailer, and like we've got lots of details for all the different transport companies, but that just, it can often add an extra hour on to the horse getting referred if we've decided we need to refer it. And then you're waiting for the transport to arrive.
Are there transport companies that will have like 24-hour hotlines?
Really? Yeah.
Are they the same people that will come and rescue you if you break down?
Yeah, I imagine so. I often get given cards by people that are willing to do 24-hour.
That's so nice.
Stuff. So, it is good.
Really
I mean, it is costly, but so it's often people do charge as well. But it is a good thing. There are definitely people that are able to. But it's just thinking about those things. And I guess the other thing, my other tips for owners this time of year, it's quite frosty now, so all the buckets are freezing over. So making sure you're cracking the ice ASAP, and making sure there's hay for your horses, so they've got access to forage as and when. And also now is a good time of year to be worming for encysted redworm as well. So after a couple of good frosts, it's good to give them a Quest Pramox. There's nothing else with moxidectin in it that you can give, so I'm not endorsing the product, but this is the time of year to be giving the Blue Quest, if anyone's wondering. So that will prevent them getting redworm in the spring.
Redworm's the one that, like, one of the symptoms is death.
It is.
I was always like, I feel like it's a bit late.
It can be sudden death.
Just death.
It is. It's terrible. So what happens is the worms hibernate in the gut wall over the winter. You probably know about this, but I don't know about the listeners. So they hibernate.
Not in this much detail.
In the gut wall over the winter, and then in the spring they come out of hibernation. And initially, the horse can have an increase in appetite, and you're like, oh, they're eating loads. And they often have a bit of diarrhea, and you're like, oh, it's fine, they're eating loads.
It's just the grass coming through,
And then, it's often at the same time. And then suddenly the horse is very, very sick because they've all kind of come out of the wall, and the horse can have a hyperimmune reaction to this. And it can be awful. Like we lost a few in the spring to that. But the main thing is having good pasture management, so making sure you're poo picking daily, and I definitely recommend giving if you're going to do anything, give a Quest Pramox now, and then worm counts throughout the rest of the year. That'd be my advice for worming.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us.
That's okay.
If people want to find out more, where's the best place to go and look?
So the best place to look is on the BHS website. And also, if you've got any questions about colic, obviously contacting your vet. And definitely the BHS website, and also there's a Facebook page for the Nottingham Equine Colic and Wound Project as well. So check that out.
And if you guys liked this episode, then we have lots of other amazing episodes that you can find on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Google Play Store. Which I have no proof because I have an Apple phone.
I would just like to point out that Izzy said that people should know about worming, but worming is actually one of our lowest listened episodes. So if you want to go back and learn about worming, there is an episode, and go and pump that up a little bit.
And you'll find lots of people will give you lots of different information about worming. It's a minefield out there, even for vets. Different vets will tell you different things.
We just worm count our horses and let them tell us what to do.
We
don't bother with anything else. But as well as going and listening to our other episodes, you can like us on Instagram, follow us on Instagram, which is at The Pony Podcast. You can like us on Facebook, that's where I got like from. Like us on Facebook, The Pony Podcast. And if there are any episodes that you want to request, then you can email us at theponypod@gmail.com. Is there anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Always got my little spiel at the end. My little All right. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.